Hi, Rob. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Dr. Dublat. I apologize to the audience right off the bat for my voice. I'm just getting over a case of laryngitis from COVID.
Yeah, the good thing is that you are well and fine, and you are here, so that's great.
Right. You can't get rid of me that easy.
Yeah. I mean, one thing is that because this phrase I picked it from your book, Metabolical, which is for sure a great thesis on food science, nutrition, health. So that's really great. The the important thing is, so of course in Metabolical you talk about different things, but the first important thing for people is health. So what is healthy means?
Right. Well, that's the question of the ages. What does healthy mean? So I'm going to tell you that my definition of healthy is very different from pretty much every other person's or institution's definition of healthy. So first of all, there's what does healthy mean for a human? And then there's what does healthy mean for, say, food, because they're not necessarily the same either. Um, Healthy for a human means that 8 subcellular pathologies, which I outline in my book, are all working for you, not against you. Now, those 8 subcellular pathologies are at the base, at the root of virtually every chronic disease that we know today. So, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia, cardiovascular disease, cancer, dementia, fatty liver disease, polycystic ovarian disease. These are not diseases. Oh, yes, we have ICD-11 codes for them. Yes, doctors bill for them. Yes, we have medicine to sort of assuage the symptoms of each of these. But these, in fact, are not diseases. These are the manifestations of diseases. What belies each one of those, quote, diseases, unquote, are 8 subcellular pathologies. And these are things that happen normally in the cell. And when they are working in your favor, you will be 110 playing tennis, i.e., healthy. When these are working against you, you will be 40 years old in a wheelchair with 2 stumps on dialysis waiting for your next stroke. Unhealthy. And of course, everything in between. So these 8 subcellular pathologies, and in the book I call them the hateful 8. No offense to Quentin Tarantino. But these are 8 pathologies that most of the general public have never heard of. And here they are. I'll just list them for you. 1, glycation. 2, oxidative stress. 3, mitochondrial dysfunction. 4, insulin resistance. 5, membrane instability. 6, inflammation. 7, methylation. And 8, autophagy. Now, there are no ICD-11 codes for any of those. Your doctor doesn't talk about those. You've never heard of those. Some of those your doctor's never heard of either. The reason is because we don't have medicines for those. Because almost all of those, with one exception, involve dysfunctional mitochondria. Mitochondria are the little energy burning factories inside each of our cells that actually make the chemical energy that we need to power our cells, called ATP. When our mitochondria are working properly, we don't have chronic disease. When our mitochondria are being affected negatively, then we get chronic disease. And here's the bullet. Here's the reason why all of this matters. There are no medicines that make it to the mitochondria. There are no medicines that we have in our, medical armamentarium, our, scientific, pharmacopoeia that actually fix mitochondria. The only thing that fixes mitochondria is food. These diseases are foodable, not druggable. Every one of those 8 diseases I mentioned earlier, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, etc., they have medicines, but those medicines are treating symptoms. They're not treating the cause because they're not treating these 8 subcellular pathologies. Now, when doctors wake up to that, when they understand that all they're doing is mollifying the symptoms of a disease, not actually treating the disease, when they realize it's like giving an aspirin to a patient with a brain tumor because they have a headache, might help the headache, not going to do a damn thing for the brain tumor. When doctors understand that, when they understand that food actually fixes the mitochondrial problem and therefore fixes chronic disease, that's when we'll be able to actually make a difference. So for me, that's what healthy is. And from a food standpoint, any food that helps your mitochondria is healthy.
So in that sense, what do we think of this phrase, prevention is better than cure? Um,
Well,
what about today's medicine then?
so prevention is a dirty word. Okay. Let me tell you, I was going to write a book with a colleague about prevention and how it was, number one, better for the patient, better for the economy, better for society, better for the planet. I was going to write an entire book on prevention. And my publisher said, we won't publish it. And why would they not publish it? Because they can't sell it. They said, not one book written about prevention in the last 100 years has even broken even. It is a money loser. People don't want to hear about prevention. People don't want to know about prevention. People want the pill. Well, the problem is there is no pill.
So I mean, on one hand, it is, I think, very, very important to understand the importance of prevention. I mean, I see that the fact, for example, we have traffic rules, that's just, I mean, why do we follow lanes and all the traffic rules just to prevent, what can happen, the accidents? So that simply shows that, where humanity should focus. But that's what it's not happening, right?
Well,
With
so so the question is, why do we have those traffic rules? It's to prevent accidents, of course. But the question is, who are you protecting? Are you protecting the driver or are you protecting the public? And the answer is you're protecting the public. The driver, he can, go off and, capsize his car and, hit a tree and whatever else. And no one really cares. It's when an innocent person who's walking along the street or, a passenger in a second car gets hit who didn't do anything wrong. That's the reason why we have traffic rules and traffic laws, is so that there's no externality. Externality being, how does your behavior affect me? Now, for decades, we had no rules for tobacco. We had no rules for alcohol. We had minimal rules for various drugs. But the fact of the matter is, now we have rules for all of those because we have made the argument that your smoking affects me through, secondhand smoke and asthma. Your drunk driving affects me because of car accidents. Your opioid use affects me, in terms of, risk for accidents and also property values. So the question for food is, how does your crappy eating affect me? And the answer is it does. It does because healthcare is going to hell in a handbasket, because you can't even get into an emergency room because of all of the uh, uh, heart attacks, lined up waiting for their TPA infusion. Okay, now with COVID, we are seeing that all of the people who are at highest mortality are the people who eat the worst because of ultra processed food, because ultra processed food actually makes COVID worse. So the fact of the matter is, we are now seeing the externalities of our, dietary choices over the last 50 years. And so I'm hoping that we can make a rational and evidentiary case to, policymakers that, we need to have some sort of new food rules, new food business model, new food procurement and marketing and consumption strategies that will actually help people rather than hurt them.